Hey, everybody, welcome back to Your Inside Track to Success. I'm your host, Stewart Kraintz, as always, and we have another amazing guest for you this week. Before I go ahead and introduce him, please like, subscribe. I'm very confident you're going to get a lot of value out of the conversation we're going to have today. So please be sure to share this out with a friend or two so that the lessons learned here today are spread far and wide and that this guest can spread their message as well. And so to dive right in and introduce him, he is a self-proclaimed former shy introvert who has built himself into a master networker. He is somebody that is one of the movers and shakers here in the city of Columbus and across Ohio and soon the world. He is a speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and consultant in the business development, consulting, relationship building space. And I am super excited for today's conversation with none other than Chris Borja. Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Yep. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Chris, I want to dive right in. You all over your website, your LinkedIn profile, you describe yourself as a former shy introvert. How does a former shy introvert become the networker that you are today and build it into your own personal brand?
Yeah. So the introvert part is just, I think I was just born that way. I think most people don't choose whether they're an introvert or an extrovert. And it was as far back as I can remember, childhood, in school, I was always the quiet kid. I was the kid that was well behaved. I was liked by the teachers. They wish they had 20 more Chris's in their class because I would never cause any trouble. I would literally sit at my desk exactly how I was supposed to and pay attention and not talk out of turn. So it served me well through school. However, it didn't serve me so well in the business world when we need to be noticed and seen and need to share our voice. And it was probably when I was about 37 years old. It was not until about 37 that I made a decision to stop playing small and stop hiding because it kept me back from so many things in life to where, like I said, in school, I wouldn't even speak up if I knew the right answer. In the workplace, when I started in the workforce, I would be able to do a great job and got accolades for that, but was never able to speak in front of my peers and get promoted because I couldn't present myself and didn't have that confidence to share my voice and always worrying about, I was always worried about what other people thought of me, just very self-conscious. And that held me back. And it wasn't until I was about 37, I said, I felt like, God had given me such big aspirations and visions, but it didn't make sense because I was not the kind of person that would speak up in front of groups or be at social events. So it was a decision really is what started it, just saying I'm not going to keep playing small and I'm not going to keep saying no to things and I'm start saying yes to opportunities. And from that point, it's not like I was automatically comfortable, but when those opportunities presented themselves, I would say yes. And then I'd run to the bathroom and try to psych myself up and look in the mirror. You could do this. You could do this. And my voice would get nervous. My voice would crack, but I would get through it. And I survived. I made it. And then the next time it got slightly easier, not a lot easier, but slightly easier. And then I just got used to not hiding and avoiding these situations. And I think the bigger danger of what I experienced and what I think many people go through is that we get so good at fooling ourselves and giving ourselves excuses to avoid those situations. So, for example, instead of somebody invites you to an event, a party, a social gathering, something that would be beneficial for you, and finding reasons why you can't go. And that's what I would do. I just find convenient reasons, and they're good, valid reasons in my opinion, but it was just avoiding the situation. So same way that somebody who can't read might be able to get through life, say, how do they get through life? How do they get in their 20s or 30s and not learn how to read as well? Because they learn how to get around that and avoid it. And that's where I was with social settings, with interacting with people in group settings. So one-to-one, I was great. I love people, but just couldn't, do anything with any more than three people. My voice would start cracking at that point.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Here's a question for you just to go a bit deeper. I feel like a lot of people out there, I'm guilty of it myself historically. We come to believe certain things about ourselves. In this case, for you, you're an introvert. for me, maybe, it's I'm an introvert, or I'm going to say something awkward that people aren't going to like, or what if they don't like me? And we almost put that label on ourselves as like an absolute truth about who we are. I'm hearing you say that it was a moment of wanting something different, of choosing your discomfort, choosing to get outside of your comfort zone. What does that process look like for people? And how do you support them in doing that in social settings?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to identify what their natural disposition is. If they're leaning more towards being introvert, extrovert, just identifying, understanding that, but also understanding that you don't need to necessarily change that to be good at interaction, at relationship building, at in social settings. You actually have, whether somebody's an introvert or an extrovert, they have a lot to bring as far as value to interactions and social settings. So, for example, introverts might think that they're not comfortable because they probably aren't in those large settings, or they're getting drained of their energy in those larger settings. But usually it's because it's, in their opinion, not meaningful conversation. It might be small talk, it might be chit chat type things. Um, but they're great at one-to-one and deeper conversations and really getting to know people and listening. So those are great networking skills and qualities to have. On the other hand, extroverts feel comfortable in that setting, but being aware that not everyone is like them and not everyone loves that setting and not everyone is as comfortable as they are, just that awareness will help them to be better at relating to people, connecting with them. And because they're comfortable, they can make others feel comfortable, invite them into the conversation. So I think the
Yeah.
starting point is really just awareness and recognizing where they're at, and also that everyone else is not like them.
Yeah, and meeting you, we have a pretty big shared network through our different channels, and finally getting to introduce myself to you at a networking event, it was like I knew who you were, I knew what you were about. I recognized your face from social media and other places, and I was just like, "Oh, I need to go introduce myself to Chris." So, clearly you have mastered both sides of that coin. Is it easier for introverts to learn how to be extroverted, or the other way around?
Yes, absolutely. I think I think the biggest challenge people have is they don't know what they're supposed to be doing because they were never taught what to do in these settings. Oftentimes, when you go to networking type settings, it's in a sales with a sales context, that people are
Yeah.
going out to prospect for new business, to get the word out of their products, their services, their organization. And they have an agenda when they go to networking events or social events, to be able to share what they do. And I think that's what affects the conversation and the actual connections that could happen, because that's what's on their mind. That's their mindset going in, is how can I wow these people with my elevator speech and impress them in 30 to 60 seconds with what I say? And there's not as much thought on the conversation and the person. So what I like to do is help people to understand that we're all just people. And it was a revelation I had from going to these events with that agenda, with that prospecting mindset, that look at all these people, I can give them my business card, I could collect their information, I can schedule a sales call with them after. I know some of them will become my customers. That wasn't working. That was my mindset going in, but it just wasn't working. People were not returning my phone calls. They weren't responding to my emails. I was basically getting ghosted, and
Mhm.
that happens all the time. So for anyone that's been ghosted, that's probably what's happening. They didn't really feel a connection. I said, okay, well, this isn't working. Why is everyone even here at these events? Why are they coming? What brings them to the event? I was like, oh, they came to share their products and their services, not to hear about mine. They wanted to share about theirs. So I started paying attention a lot more to that and just asking questions and learning about what they do and why they do it, and who they serve and how they help people. But as soon as I found out about those things, I would learn about the person and about the person behind the title, the person behind the social media profile, the person behind the business name. And as we did that, the whole conversation, the energy of the whole conversation shifted to where it was like person to person and not, title to title as far as the interaction. And it leveled the playing field, because whether somebody's like at a CEO level and they're gazillionaire, or somebody's just getting started in business and they feel like they don't have enough to offer, once you get it to that personal level, then it's just people wanting to help people. And I find that most people do want to help others if they have the opportunity, and we're more likely to want to help our friends, people that we personally know. And so there's at our events, when we host networking events throughout town, and one of the activities we often do at our events is to make sure that everyone has a chance to connect in a way that's real and authentic and genuine. And the way we do that is we break people up into pairs. So we don't rely on
Mhm.
chance for people to make great connections. We create the situation where they're going to make a great connection. So for example, we pair people up, we make sure they're paired up with someone they don't know. Oftentimes we'll do an activity where they have to look and lock eyes with somebody across the room. It's kind of awkward for a little bit, but it's a lot of fun. And then they walk towards each other. Now they're meeting a stranger. So it levels the playing field because everyone knows that they're all meeting with somebody new. So there's no buddy buddy. There's no, oh, well, everyone knows each other except for me. It doesn't matter if they're introvert, extrovert. It doesn't matter if it's their first event or 1,000th event. They're meeting everyone is meeting somebody new. And we'll do something like taking out the business part of that to start with. So we'll say, okay, you're going to meet your new best friend, get to know their name, and you're going to learn some fun facts about them. Anything that's not work related. You can learn about their hobbies, activities, family, travel, bucket list items, literally anything at all that you can imagine, pets, anything except for work. And you'll have 5 minutes to get to know one another. So go ahead and start. And you can't take notes. You can't talk about any business. And so by taking away the business part, they're actually getting to know each other as people. And that's usually the part that they don't get to because it's just name, rank, serial number. What's your name? What do you do? What do you do? What's your name? What do you do? What's your
Yeah.
name? What do you do? And so by doing that, now they built a relationship, and it will break. And then we'll say, we'll kind of get some feedback from them. And then we'll do the next part. Okay, how many of you, we'll ask a question. How many of you are genuinely interested now in what your new best friend actually does for a living? And everyone raises their hand like, oh my God, I can't wait to find out what they do. And so just by shifting it, all of a sudden people actually care about what the other person does. When it's reversed, most people aren't really listening because they're thinking about what they're going to say about themselves or their elevator speech or introduction. And so just small things like that, we're just creating opportunities for people to connect. So the key is for people to learn how to connect with people and not hide behind titles or businesses or social media profiles, but to get through that to the actual person.
Oh, Chris, I am so glad you shared all of that because this is something that I think about a lot. I am inherently in the business, so to speak, of meeting people, connecting people, vetting people to get them on this show, make sure that they're experts, have something valuable to offer. And it's so tricky from my perspective because I've actually have grown this show to the point that people are throwing themselves at me in a way of this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for, and it actually isn't allowing me to get to know them as a person. And I struggle with that too of going to networking events. First thing people ask me is what do I do? And there's so much more to me than what my business card says or what I title myself.
Mm.
And I something that I believe, and a mentor of mine back from my days working in baseball said this to me. It always stuck. I'm wondering what your thoughts are. He said that every single situation you're in, meeting a new person, you have an opportunity to impact one another. You have something to offer everybody, but it's on you to figure out what that is. And he basically says that you don't get there unless you really create that connection. And I feel like I'm hearing you say that in the networking exercises you do with Connected. I'm wondering if you have any additional thoughts on that statement.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's accurate. And
Mm.
I think that's where there's a lot of lost opportunity because we've all heard that you only have one chance to make a great first impression. But if you make a friend, you have unlimited chances. You have all kinds of opportunities. If
Mhm.
you and I meet for the first time and we didn't have all the commonalities of groups and people that we're associated with and friends with, even if we're just complete strangers and we met for the first time, didn't talk much about work, or maybe just one sentence or two about work, or just a little bit just to know, what each other does, but we actually connected. We can always reach back out, and I send you a message, or you send me a message. Hey, Chris, I look forward to knowing you better. Let me know if you're open to a quick call, just to on Zoom, and look forward to just learning more about you and what your goals are and where you're going, and see how we can support one another. I'm going to take that call. I'm going to respond 100% of
Mhm.
the time, and vice versa. I have a feeling you probably would too. And that's where most
Mhm.
people miss opportunities, because they're in an old paradigm and mindset of sales, to where they feel like
Yeah.
it's a numbers game and it's just got to crank through more numbers. It's somewhat true, but not 100% true, because yeah, we need to increase numbers, but we don't. What if we can increase our batting average? What, instead of if having to go 1,000 at bats, what if we can only go 100? Or what if just 10 really solid connections is enough to get us that one hit or that relationship? Or so that's the thing, is like people miss out on that because they don't connect. So that, like you talked about at the event, just ask for what's your name, what do you do? That's standard. That's going to happen at every event that somebody goes to. It's just, even not at events, even at parties, people will say, "Hey, what do you do for
Yeah.
a living?" It's just natural. So it's a great place to start a conversation. It really is, because people are expecting it. It's a great place to start. They're not expecting, are you married? Do you like kids? Do you have pets? That's like a weird way to start a conversation. So start with the work stuff. People expect it, but don't, it's a great place to start, but it's not a great place to finish the conversation. So start
Yeah.
there, but just transition it over to more personal, and really easy way to transition is asking follow-up questions. So whatever business somebody says they're in, you can always say, "Oh, where is your business located?" And then, do you also live in the area? "Oh, did you grow up in this area?" And then if they did, then you say, "Oh, what changes have you seen?" Or if they haven't, say, "Where did you come from? Where were you from originally? Where did you grow up?" And so starting a real conversation, and just starting to get it slowly away from work in a natural way, where it's not a script. It's not like, you're sound like a robot, but you're genuinely curious about, yeah, did you grow up here in the Columbus area? Oh, where'd you grow up? You grew up in Las Vegas. Wow, that's interesting. How long were you in Las Vegas for? So you're just having a real conversation. And the more you ask people, they tend to reciprocate, and they'll ask you about, how about you? Where did you grow up? Or, how about you? Do you have pets? Or how about you? What's your favorite travel or your favorite ice cream or whatever it is? So now you're in a conversation, and you can always do that again. So it's a combination of that. Plus, social plays a big role too. I love using social media, and a lot of
Mhm.
people don't utilize it effectively. So social media, it allows us to stay in touch. And like you said, say, "I recognize your face already," because social media. So
Yeah.
you could do real well staying in touch with people. And some people think it's a waste of time. I don't. I think it's a great way to leverage time, because I don't know how else to stay in touch with thousands of people with a click of a button, or be able to engage, or wish a dozen people happy birthday in about 2 minutes. I can't do that just calling people. It wouldn't happen.
Sure.
So I think
No.
social media as a tool is great to stay in touch and continue building relationships, because people get to look in, you get to spy on their profile, they spy on yours, but it helps you to get to know one another. And then the more you know about somebody, the more it builds trust, even before you have the next conversation. So there's a lot of things that all work together. And when people understand how to use this, it really makes them a lot more effective at building networks, building relationships, and more importantly, building communities. And as they build communities, they create more influence. They have more influence. They'll get into their decision makers a lot easier, and have
Yeah.
access to the people that will really make a big impact on their lives.
And to that point, if I may, I would love your opinion on this. I feel like I'm hearing you say it's about authentically connecting, authentically getting to know somebody, building the relationship first, and not treating each individual person like, "Oh, Chris is my next sale," or, "Oh, Henry is my next sale," or, "Oh, Jennifer is my next sale." It is authentically connecting, and I would say trusting that as you continue to be in relation with people, the end result will take care of itself. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because we just, once you build that relationship, they're your friend. And
Yeah.
people that we all refer people already now. Everyone does it. They're not trying to do it. They just refer people. And if you look at it, you always refer people that are your friends. And you
Yeah.
never refer people that aren't your friends, that you don't know or have no clue who they are. You're not going to send a bad referral. So that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Folks, we kind of alluded to it, but just to say it explicitly, to double down on Chris's point about social media. Yes, we did recently meet one another in person at a networking event, but because of our mutual friends, our mutual networks, I knew who Chris was through Facebook, through LinkedIn. A very, very good mutual friend, Henry Gaffey Lee, has been on this show and been telling me about Chris and his networking events. And the connected community that he's building. So when I finally met Chris, it was a slam dunk, easy, actually pretty warm intro to invite him to be on the show. And, Chris had a general idea of who I was too. And that's much, much better than just the cold DM. Hey, Chris, this is who I am. Do you want to be on my show? You know, Chris knows who I am, has a sense of my character as a person. And I know that this is just the beginning of a relationship between the two of us, but everything that he has just described to you is how we've come together to create this episode. And so, Chris, I wanted to step into a slightly different conversation. I know that you are a man of faith. I know that our relationship with God, our creator, and also our relationship with ourselves is critically important just in our everyday, our well-being, our happiness and sense of fulfillment here on this earth. How does networking with others, how does building relationship with others tie into relationship with our higher power and also with ourselves?
Yeah, it's really about connection. It's really
Mhm.
connecting with each other. And I look at what we do as a big part of my mission here on earth is bringing people together that normally wouldn't ever have a chance to meet one another. And I think that's key. And I really believe that in our slogan, which is that we are all connected, diversity is our strength, and that we are
Mhm.
better together. I really believe all of those things. And if everyone else believed the same thing, the world would be a better place. And that's really the bigger picture of where we're going with everything that we do. So everything from training people how to network. I love teaching people how to network. I love helping them experience breakthroughs in their lives through networking skills and learning how to relate to people. But the bigger picture is that everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a reason for existing. And it's not just to make money and pay bills. It's so much greater than
Facts.
that. And everyone has a unique life experience. Everyone has overcome, at this point, anyone you talk to has overcome some amazing, incredible, and many times horrific situations that they've dealt with in the past and survived it and made it through. And as we understand that about people, I think it helps us to be more empathetic, to be able to offer more grace and compassion for others. And I believe all of these things help create a better world. It also helps create a better business environment, but that's just the conduit for which we're making a better world, because the business people are the ones that have the most interest in meeting new people. And so if it doesn't start with the business community, who else is going to start it? So we start there, but really the bigger vision is to change the world, make the world a better place, one connection and one community at a time. And so that's where, to me, it's a mission. And I feel like that's why God woke me up out of my slumber, so to speak, of just getting through and hiding under the radar, because at the time I saw myself speaking in front of tens and thousands of people, a vision of tens of thousands of people. And that was when speaking in front of three people would make me nervous and my voice would quiver. And it didn't make sense to have these kind of visions. And I knew that I wasn't doing everything I was meant to, but everything happens in the right timing, because I needed that experience to be able to have this experience. I needed to go through that to be able to relate to others. And I think that's what makes our events amazing. That's what makes our trainings amazing, because I don't assume that people are naturals at it. So like if you bring it over into the sports analogy, we're towards the playoffs in basketball season,
Mhm.
basketball season right now. Somebody who's naturally good at basketball and can just shoot it and they go in the hoop and they're trying to train somebody, it doesn't mean they're a great mentor or coach, or for helping somebody else. They say, oh, just shoot the ball, put it in the hoop, yeah, just throw it in the middle, no, not to the left, not to the right, yeah, just shoot it in the middle, no, no, not there in the. But then somebody who sucked at basketball and had no idea how to play and had to learn the mechanics of, here's how you place your feet, here's your arms, here's your follow through, here's your where you focus on, and they can now better train other people because they weren't a natural. And I feel like I had to go through this journey not being a natural, because then I can help other people to be able to follow these simple steps to be able to accomplish what they need to accomplish, not just in their business, but in life. Business, we change all the time. Look at anybody's LinkedIn profile. all the things on there, they probably thought that was what they're going to do the rest of their life. And
Yep.
then they were there 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and then they moved on to something else. So that the work and the businesses are temporary, but everyone has a much bigger purpose. So when you ask about, how does faith relate to it? I want to help people and their skills and help them to have the breakthroughs that they need to have so that they can accomplish the big visions or the big goal or the reasons that they're really here on earth. And it's a lot bigger than, making a sale or, growing a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know when you're one connection away from somebody that's either going to support you in getting to your goals or your dreams, or even just supporting you in figuring out what is authentically your vision, your purpose for being here on this earth with the time that you have here. And I actually love that you brought up the LinkedIn profile. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, Chris, you'll see I worked for a bunch of different baseball teams, working in sales and marketing all over the country, some really, really big names. And that question we often get in job interviews, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's hysterical to me because who I was when I was Stu the baseball guy is drastically different from who I am now. And similar to what you said, I had to have those experiences to be who I am today. But I also like myself a lot more. I'm much more aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing here on this earth than I was when I was my most successful on paper, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I encourage anybody listening to this, if you find yourself lost, if you find yourself in a place of achieve these things, I have these, amazing accomplishments, but you're feeling unfulfilled, you're feeling like there's something else out there, reach out to folks for support. Like maybe it is attending an event such as Connected, which will definitely have Chris explain a bit more here in a second, but you don't figure these things out alone. And the world is definitely a much smaller, more inviting place when you have people in your corner. And so that's part of why I wanted to have Chris here on the show this week, because he gets it, he understands it, and it's also his mission to support people in getting there. So Chris, you have an amazing vision with Connected. So I'd love for you to maybe explain to the listeners a bit more what it is. I know you've talked about it a bit already, but what it is and how it is different from regular networking events.
Yeah, the name of our organization is the Connected Networking Group. And we originally started in a suburb of Columbus called Dublin. So we started locally, we worked and lived there and just wanted to create community there, create a more comfortable space for people like myself that maybe not comfortable and be able to connect with one another. And it caught fire and we started growing. It started slow and then picked up speed and then just kept growing. And we grew to over 7,500 members and realized that we had outgrown the city of Dublin because we had people driving from 2 hours away as far up as, Toledo and
Wow.
Cincinnati to come to our events and go back, try to get back home to pick in time to pick up their kids. So it was amazing that we had people coming all the way to the city of Dublin for our events. So we expanded to the Connected Networking Group. And as I shared earlier, we have a focus of helping people and making it comfortable for them, a fun and a comfortable space for people to meet because networking is not always comfortable. And our mission with the group is to provide space for them to meet, collaborate, and grow because it's hard to find places to meet nowadays. Like, if you needed to meet 5 people today, where would you drive your car and just like go into a place and meet 5 new people, let alone have a business conversation with them or be able to share your business? So it's hard to do that, whether it's in person or online. So if we just gather people to start and let everyone know, and we do this, say, hey, look around. We'll make them look around at each other. Say, everyone here came to meet new people. So if we stop here, and leave the room and just no other agenda, you can all meet one another. You have, a whole room full of people to connect with. You all have that in common. So just creating that space where they already know they can talk to anybody because everyone's here to meet. And secondly is a spirit of collaboration where it's it's collaboration. People don't usually understand because they're thinking prospecting like I used to. So collaboration is building a relationship so that you can share resources and create a win-win situation, which just that definition alone and helping attendees understand that this is why we're here. This is what we do. This is our culture. We want to get to know you. We want to see how we can share resources with one another. Sometimes it's what you're selling. Sometimes the person needs it and you're going to make a sale. But most of the time it's not. And most of the time it's another connection. Maybe it's encouragement. Maybe it's listening. Maybe it's becoming a partner and listening to their pitches or something like that, or helping them with their online marketing or whatever it is. So it's collaborating, sharing resources. It could be so with networking is the fastest way to success because through collaboration we can instantly bridge the gap between wherever somebody's at now and where they want to be. So they're here, their goal is here, there's a gap in between. And the gap is usually don't have enough time, don't have the finances to launch this initiative. I don't really have the knowledge or the skills. Well, guess what? It takes forever. It takes a long time for somebody to save enough money to launch. It takes somebody a long time to
Yeah.
gain enough knowledge to launch. It takes a long time for somebody to gain the knowledge or the skills to build online products or whatever support things or mechanical stuff that they need to accomplish their goals. But one person can instantly bridge that gap. So short finances, one person that has the finances that believes in your product could instantly bridge the gap. Somebody with the knowledge can instantly bridge the gap. And that's what networking. So when we meet, collaborate, build relationships so we can share resources and create a win-win. And guess what? All the people, if there's an investor and they're looking to place their money somewhere where it makes a bigger return, it's a win for them. It's a win for the person. It's a win for the public. It's a win for the community. So we just create a win-win situation. And the third thing is grow. So meet, collaborate, and grow because we want to be intentional. So all of our events, they're fun. Like if you look at the pictures, everyone's laughing, they have a good time. They're really connecting, enjoying one another, meeting new people, making new friendships. We have people, get married as a result of their relationships. It's not a dating site, just, but it's just because of the strength of the people actually connecting with each other, those opportunities pop up. But helping people actually grow, not just professionally, not just in their numbers and scaling their business, that's going to happen, but also personally, that personal development side to where every time they meet people, they learn from us, they learn from the structure of the events and the trainings that we have available. And so that's the mission of the group. And then as we do that, we focus on, so we're expanding in local communities. The structure is also different, is that we're a free group to join. So just kind of like inside information on it, it's a freemium group. So basically like an app, you have an app where some models, they sell you the app and say, hey, here's a great app. It's $4.99 a month or $9.99 a month. And a lot of people never get a chance to experience what that app is like or how awesome it is because they don't want to spend the $4.99 or the $9.99 for it. So the freemium apps usually get the most traction because it's easy to get into people's hands to let them experience it. And then the people that want to can upgrade to the $4.99 or $9.99. And that's how our group operates. So there's no pressure for memberships to be sold. We just love bringing people together, and we view people as the value in our group, not the fact that they can sign up as a member, but the fact that they become part of the community. They bring their energy, their relationships, their resources to the table. So as we bring more resources, the richer our group becomes. It's also easier for our members to invite others. So for example, let's say a realtor, there's a lot of realtors out there. It's a competitive field. And
Yeah.
many people would not meet a realtor for a one-to-one if they're not looking to buy or sell a home. And maybe even then they wouldn't because they already know somebody else. So I use that as an example because it's probably harder for them to just meet for a one-to-one and say, hey, I want to get to know you better, because people will filter like, why should I not have to meet this person? Not buying or selling a house. They're probably not buying my product. So it's kind of a waste of time. So they'll make up an excuse to not meet. But let's say that
Sure.
same realtor, let's say I'm a realtor in this scenario. So if I'm a realtor now, instead of saying I'm a realtor, Stu, I'd love to meet you for a one-to-one. You're like, yeah, I think I'm busy that day. So instead, I could say, hey, Stu, we've got this. I'm part of this networking organization, and we bring lots of business people together. And I know you have a podcast. You can meet other local business leaders and people that might be potential guests, and I can introduce you to some people. So you're more likely to respond to any of my emails, phone calls, text after that, because we built a relationship and I have something that's of interest to you. Now you come to the event and I do follow through. I introduce you to people, you meet some great people, I added value. And guess what? Out of all the realtors, because of the recency effect that I interacted with you, the most recent, I already bypassed a bunch of realtors that you've known longer than me. because of the
Yeah.
value effect, the fact that I added value to you. You have a tendency to want to reciprocate, like, wow, Chris, thank you so much for inviting me. As I made some amazing connections. I got somebody booked for my podcast. They're a CEO of XYZ company. So you're going to want to reciprocate. Chris, have you met this person? Have you met this person? So that's what happens. And it's all organic. It's just people don't understand how to use it. So we're creating this. And because it's focused on community building, we're creating not chapters by city, but looking to have several chapters in each city that are all collaborative. So the chapters aren't fighting for memberships because there's no membership to fight over. We're bringing community together. And by doing that, all the chapters are collaborating and adding value to each other. The more people that come into the ecosystem and community, the richer everyone becomes. And also equipping people to not be just a consumer or a cog in the wheel, but empowering them and showing that you are the hub of your own network. And the larger and the stronger you build your hub, that you build your network, the more value you have, and the easier it is to get into other circles. So, for example, if I have a network of 10,000 people and instead of 100, I can get into more circles because they look and say, oh, Chris has, because they want to access my 10,000. If I have 100, they have more than I do. So I'm taking from them. But if I have 10,000, I have something to offer. And so that's what helps people to be able to get in the door with more opportunities. It helps them to be able to create collaborations and partnerships and not have to constantly sell whatever their services or products are. Because the reality is that whatever somebody, if we make a sale today in the business world, what do we have to do tomorrow? Well, we got to make another sale. What do we do next day? We got to make another sale. So it becomes that endless treadmill and people get exhausted and burnt out on business, on prospecting, because it's a never ending treadmill. But if we can teach people how to create community, build influence and build their brand, create partnerships and collaborations, it's sustainable. It's ongoing. You make one
Yeah.
connection, that could be an ongoing source of referrals. You make one
Yes.
connection, it could be an endless source of potential podcast guests because they just know everyone else that you would ever want to interview. So it makes it so much easier than the individual one-to-one, no matter what industry somebody's in. So that's the goal of the group. And as we do this and expand, we set a goal for, we just started our expansion actually this year in January. And our goal was to reach 24 chapters by the end of 2024. And we're already at 18 chapters now. And
Ooh.
our big vision, so next year, 65 chapters. And then the big vision is that by 2035 to have 10,000 connected networking group chapters across the world, which will represent about 5 million members of people that believe that we are all connected. Diversity is our strength and that we are better together. So imagine what happens to the world as more people are coming together, what happens to individualize their businesses, but also their local communities. So that's how we change the world, is one connection, one community at a time. And I love this way of growing business because it truly values people, not as commodities, not as
Yeah.
pawns or throwaway pieces or numbers to get through, the no's to get to the yes. Each and every person is important. And you never know where like you said earlier, where that next connection is going to come from, or that one that makes all the difference. And one last thing, just on that point, I don't know if I'm not sure, but it's from the Bible. So whether somebody believes
Mhm.
or not, I think the point can be taken from it. But in one of the chapters, it talks about the genealogy of Jesus, like literally a whole paragraph, like a whole chapter of just like this, that so and so begot so and so begot so and so begot so and so, like all the people that led to this, and then this is the genealogy that led to Jesus. So I looked at one time I was looking at those names and I was like, that's a lot of names. And they play a critical role in the history of the world and of eternity. And I looked at it and said, I wonder if these people knew how significant their life was. Like they literally lived a full life and never knew the role that they played in the lineage of Jesus and making an impact on the entire planet and possibly for eternity, right? So
Yeah.
I said, how many other people are living their lives and feel like they're not successful, feel like they're not important, feel like they're not living out their purpose, or just not even knowing what their purpose is, but they are one of those names
Yeah.
that is playing a significant role. And with networking, it's the same thing. Like we don't know, it's all the seemingly insignificant connections, contacts, interactions that we have. But when you backtrack, like literally you and I here on this podcast today, If we backtrack, there are so many things that had to happen exactly as they did for us to be here. And there's so many people that we wouldn't be here today if one person didn't make an introduction to this person, or didn't introduce us to this program or to that person, then we wouldn't have met. And so when we backtrack, it doesn't matter who they are, anyone backtracks their life, there are so many seemingly insignificant, I say seemingly insignificant because they're actually significant, but they're seemingly insignificant connections, relationships that we've had in life, but it can make a huge difference. But it's also important to understand that everyone is also that seemingly insignificant connection for somebody else. And so as we bring people together, that's where we can make truly a world of difference.
Oh, Chris, that was so well said. Everything you just shared is so, so true. And like, you never know when that connection, when that relationship is just around the corner. People talk about trying to find the one, like their romantic relationship, their forever partner. You never know when that person's going to present themselves, but you guarantee you will not find that person or that relationship or that business partner if you're not out there playing the game. And like, just to use your example of the lineage of Jesus, like, I guarantee you none of those people knew that they were going to be part of that lineage, right? It happened, but they didn't know. And the thing that you said that I want to double down on, circle back to, because I think it puts a bow on this conversation really well. To quote you, you are the hub of your own network. And what I take that to mean is everybody's network is unique to them. We also have that responsibility to cultivate it, to curate it, to be giving to it, to be feeding it and nourishing it. What do you feel is missing from that statement, if anything?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. What's important for people is, for us, is just to raise awareness that you're not a cog in the wheel. You're the hub of your own network. And then we bring all these networks together. That's why it's a network. That's a true network. Everything's interconnected and you need every single piece. Like, take out a computer circuit board, unplug one wire and the whole computer doesn't work. Unplug one wire of your car and your whole car doesn't work. So that's the thing, is like, you don't, everyone is important. And when people realize how important their role is, I think they take it more seriously. And it's not just about building business. There's much more at stake.
Yeah, folks, you are consequential to the people in your life, whether you know it or not. And so I encourage anybody listening to this just to take that in for themselves and, just take stock of how you are showing up in your relationships, and are you providing value that will return itself to you tenfold. And so, Chris, I know that we are starting to run short on time here. Where can people connect with you? Where can they continue the conversation?
Yes, look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn. Easiest way is just go to my website, www.chrisborja.com, CHRISBORJA. And I have all of my links, all the services, networking group, all of the other resources that we have available. We've got a networking IQ assessment on there where people can find out exactly what their strengths are in networking and actually get an IQ score with a breakdown. I give away a free copy of my book. So you can get a free PDF copy of the book on the website, and also learn about the Networking Breakthrough Academy, which is a training program to certify people on networking and give people the confidence, the clarity, the tools that they need to create those collaborations and partnerships and bring them in a community of all the alumni and people that all want to support and help. And just like Stu brought up the dating analogy a little bit ago. And I look at a lot of times, there's so many parallels with growing business or people that are dating and looking for the one, right? You said the one.
Mm-hmm.
And the way most people date is they're looking for the one. They're trying to find, where do I find the one? Where do I find this person? Same thing with business. But the reality is that most people, their friends are the ones that know most about them and know who would be a good fit and who wouldn't be a good fit and why they wouldn't be a good fit right away. And friends that will probably know the people that at least have a chance, of a connection, of a love connection because of, commonalities or personalities, or they would be great together. And it's the same way with the business world, that as you build relationships, then people naturally say, hey, this is a great fit. You should meet Stu. You should get on the podcast. You should meet this person. You should meet Chris. He'll help you with growing your network. And so that's the thing, is like there's a lot of parallels between the two, and just having other people share those. And that's how simple the referrals are. It's just natural, organic. It's not forced. But yeah, it just creates a lot of opportunities. So as far as, next steps for people, all the resources available at chrisborja.com, and look forward to getting to know each person. And I also have a link there. I do love to reach out and have one-to-ones with people and get to know their journeys, their stories, where they're looking to get to, and see how we can, collaborate and grow together. So at the bottom of my website, I actually have a link to my calendar. So people can actually book a 15-minute call with me, and there's no charge for it, just true connection call, no sales pitch, just a way to get to know each other and see what we can create. I feel like if we do more of that, more opportunities will pop up, because most people aren't as successful as they could be, not because they don't have closing skills, but they don't have enough opening skills, the ability to start conversations, to open up new relationships and see where it goes. And that's what we want to help people do, is to be able to open new opportunities and new conversations.
So good. So good. Folks, we're going to make sure all of Chris's information is available in the descriptions, in the show notes, anywhere that you are listening to this episode. Chris, we are almost at time. This is the question I ask every single guest on the show. So we want to make sure you're no different. What are you acknowledging yourself for today?
Acknowledging myself for overcoming overcoming hard times, and always seeing the silver lining, always seeing the positive out of every situation. And I I've been through so many challenges, as many people, but I feel like I extend myself grace, and also I do the same for so many others because of how much grace I've been extended. And I feel like that carries on, and I just have a lot of grace and patience and just love for people. So that's really me.
Awesome. And the topic of grace is an entirely other podcast episode for sure. Chris, thank you so, so much for being here today. We'll definitely have to have you on again in the future. And folks, again, this has been your inside track to success. I know you got value out of today's conversation. Please be sure to like, subscribe, share this out as far and wide as you can, because you never know when you're giving value in a way that's going to create the next most important relationship in your life, as we learned today. So, this has been your Inside Track to Success. As always, I'm your host, Stewart Kraintz. We will see you again next week.